everyone, welcome to our channel Sangeeta to Teach. Today in this video we're going to look at what is research and what are the research process steps. So we will discuss in detail what are the different steps that are involved in the research process, which is very important. Okay, so topics that we are going to cover in this video are what is a research, what are the definitions that are given under research, what are the basic requirements for doing a research. We'll talk about the objectives, very important topics, that is linger method, which has been asked in the question paper already, and we'll also look at the features and the difference between the research method and the methodology. Is this also important? You need to understand what actually is a method and what actually is a methodology. To be simple, I should say that method is what you follow. Methodology is a process. It is a procedure that you follow. Okay. And very important topic that we are going to discuss is the research process. We will discuss in detail what are the steps that are involved in the research process. So please watch this video till the end. And if you are coming for the very first time, please like and subscribe to this channel for more videos. Okay, coming to the introduction. Research is nothing but a research. So this is is nothing but again, and search is find. So you again and again find for some truth or something that is unknown. So you are trying to know something. So by asking some questions like what, why and how. So what is the problem? Why has this problem been occurred? And how I can solve this problem? These are the different kinds of questions that fall under the research. When you are doing a research, you ask yourself what is the problem, why, and how I can solve this problem. These are the basic questions when you are doing a research. So it is getting a solution for a problem in a systematic way. So it is not just getting a solution, but it has to be done in a systematic way. So it is a journey from unknown to unknown. See, you know what is the problem. You are trying to find the solution which is unknown. When you start, you really don't know, but at the end you are going to know something which is unknown. Okay, it will increase the knowledge. It is a process of inquiry and investigation. I said you these questions like why, what and how, these are nothing but an investigative things, investigative questions when you are doing a research. So it is a process of investigation or an inquiry. You try to find out something new, right? To arrive at the new findings and conclusions is nothing but the research, right? It is simple. Research is nothing but you try to find out something new. And which will increase your knowledge, where you do a lot of background work in understanding what actually is the problem, how I can solve the problem, etc. So it is all about the investigation and finding the new things, new findings, and you finally conclude what you really want to do in your research, right? Coming to the definition. Criswell has defined research as a process of steps. It is a process of steps that is used to collect the data and analyze the information to increase our understanding of the topic. So you read a lot of books while doing a research. You do a lot of research for getting into a conclusion. So there is a lot of data that is collected and analyzed, and finally where you increase the understanding of that particular topic. According to the Advanced Learner's Dictionary, research is nothing but a careful investigation where there is a special inquiry questions that are being asked, and you finally draw to a conclusion of new facts. Research can be done in any branch or any discipline. It is going to increase the knowledge. Okay. So it is nothing but a careful investigation for a new facts in any of the branch of the knowledge. Okay, moving on to the research requirements. What are the requirements, the basic requirements for doing a research? The first thing is planning. You need to have a plan for doing a research. See, this is the plan. This is the blueprint that I'm going to follow for my research. So there must be a planning. You must have a guide or an expert. So they will give you a directions in following how you can do a research. You need to have some training. See, you directly can't do a research. You need to have some basic training on how you can do it, and you need to have some finance. That is, you need to have some funds or fund resources for doing a research. You can there is also a money investment where you have to do in a research, right? References. See, references is nothing but you read a lot of books, you read a lot of material or an articles that are related to the work that you are doing. So you need to refer a lot of things. So where you give the references, you need a library and also the research journals. Why are we looking at this references, library and research journals? Because we need to have an idea on what is already there and what you are trying to find out something new. So you have to understand the background work that has been already there for that particular research. So understood? So these are the basic requirements of the research. Moving on. Research aim is nothing but to find out the truth. Find out the truth. Okay. How do we group a research? See, there are 4 types for now, and we'll also discuss what are the different types of research that are present, and also we'll discuss the different sampling techniques in the further videos. For today, we are looking at grouping of research. So, exploratory or a formulating research. Exploratory research is nothing but you explore. You see, you try to find out the new insights. You gain familiarity with a phenomenon or to achieve a new insight. So you explore the things, you try to find out something new you already know, and you try to dig into it and get deeper knowledge, and you finally achieve some new insights. Coming to the descriptive. Descriptive is nothing but in this descriptive you're not going to do anything. It is that whatever is there you portray it. So portray the characteristics of a particular situation. Descriptive is nothing but you describe whatever is there. You do not manipulate any data or anything. Descriptive is you describe what is there and you have no rights in manipulating anything. So diagnostic. Diagnostic is related to the frequency. This word frequency is related to the diagnostic. So it will determine the frequency with which something occurs or associated with something else. So diagnostic is nothing but the frequency at which some incident or a situation occurs, or association of one thing with another thing, that will fall under the diagnostic. Coming to the hypothesis testing. What actually is hypothesis? I can say that hypothesis is nothing but a tentative statement. A statement that I am assuming. This might be, see, if I am doing a research on fat people eat a lot. So this is my hypothesis. Fat people eat a lot. And after my research, it can be valid or not valid. So these are 2 things. A statement is an assumption. It is a tentative statement. It need not be true. It need not be false. So it can be anything. At the end, you come to a conclusion whether your hypothesis is being tested, it is valid or not valid. So when I do research and I find that fat people do not eat much, so my hypothesis is wrong. That is, it is false. So hypothesis is a tentative statement. It is my assumption. So with that assumptions, I'm trying to find out, and I conclude I draw a conclusion that after my research, this is what I found out, that the fat people eat a lot or fat people will not eat a lot. So these are the 2 statements that will draw when there is a hypothesis. So this is a hypothesis. Hypothesis is nothing but a tentative statement, which is an assumption that I'm making for my research. Okay, after doing all the research, I develop the hypothesis, right? And finally I will test the hypothesis whether it is true or not. That is the hypothesis testing. So hypothesis testing is of a causal relationship between the variables. So this is a relationship between the variable, whether it is happening or it is not happening. Okay, simple. Coming to the Kerlinger method, which is very, very important. So in this method, we will have 4 approaches according to the Kerlinger. He said the 4 approaches are method of tenacity, method of authority, method of intuition, and method of science. So these are the 4 approaches from the Kerlinger's method. This is very, very important, and this has been already asked in the question paper. So in the previous years that I have discussed in the research aptitude, previous year questions, this was the question. If you are looking for the previous year questions of research aptitude, I'll give it in the description box. Please have a look at it. Okay, so what actually is this method of tenacity? So method of tenacity is nothing but it is based on the belief. So tenacity is based on the belief. So holds on the truth of what has always been known to be true, and even they are conflicting facts. So tenacity is nothing but it is all on the belief. It can be true or it can be a conflict of being true. So example, it can be the racial, color, superiority, or etc., ethnic superiority, etc. This is tenacity. Tenacity is nothing but belief. Okay. Okay, coming to the authority. Authority, it is based on the authority of the source. Authority is having command or on the roles and responsibilities. So authority can be wrong as well. So sometimes anything that is said by a teacher or boss is nothing but an authority. So this is based on the method of authority. Coming to the next method of intuition. Intuition is based on logic or a reason, and it is not based on the experience. So this is based on the logic and not on the experience. So based on the reason rather than the experience. Intuition, for example, if I have to say, if you want to become a good speaker, then you need to have a you should be good in communication. Like, communication is not language. You need not be good in English. It is not just English to be a good speaker. It is your communication skills. It can be in any language. The way of your body language, the eye contact, how you gain the attention of the audience is all related to the good speaker. So you need to have some good communication. Okay, if a person has to be an accountant, he has to be familiar with the accounts. Without, if I can't get a pharmacy student doing an accounts, right? So there is a reason for what they are doing. So it is method of intuition, which is based on the reason rather than the experience. There should be some logic in it. Okay, method of science is nothing but a scientific approach, like, how you do the research in a scientific way. So these are the 4 methods that were given by the Kerlinger. So that is tenacity, authority, intuition, and science. I hope you are clear about this method of Kerlinger. So tenacity is belief, authority is authority, the demand, the commanding demand. Intuition is logic or a reason rather than experience. Science is scientific approach. Coming to the features of the research. Features, like, research, why are we doing? To predict something what is upcoming in the future. So prediction of the future occurrences. So it is direction towards the solution. Yes, we are looking for a solution and we are directed towards the solution. Accuracy in observation and description. So when you're doing a research, it should be accurate. You can't do some bias or some partiality or mistakes while you're doing a research. So you should be accurate. You should be in the observations or anything that you are describing should be very specific and valid and accurate. Okay, basis of research, like, why do you do a research? You do a research with an experience. You have some experience in that particular topic, and so with the interest you're looking into that research, right? Gathering new data. Yes, the research is all about the data, the new data that you are collecting and analyzing, right? And coming to the research is a scientific program. Yes, I said you, it is in a systematic way. It is a scientific program. Yes, the development of generalization of the principle. See, you do a research which is relevant to the society. Yes, and you generalize the research what you are doing. You generalize that the sample that you are taking is applicable to the population, right? So you are generalizing the principles. It is the question for the answers. You try to get the answers for different questions that you have. So research is all about questions and answers. It is something that, it is all about directing towards the solution. It is all about the experience, accuracy, and scientific program, generalization of the principles. And yes, it should be logical. Research should be logical and objective. See, there should be a social relevance. Yes, it must be related to the problem that is faced by the society, and you are trying to find the solution. And it is not that with a irrelevance you're doing, and there is no use of that research. It is waste of doing, right? Okay, coming to the reliability. Reliability is nothing but consistency. So whether this research will be useful for another person when he is doing. So it should have a reliable content, reliable information, right? It is consistency that is not going to change. So this is reliable, it is not going to change for some time or the other time. So it is cyclic in nature. When you do not fall into a conclusion, you again go back to the first step, that is again define the problem. So it is cyclic in nature. Validity is nothing but accuracy. So these are the two terms that always confuse people: reliability and validity. Only when a research is valid, then it is reliable. So first thing is validity, and then it is followed by reliability. So validity, if the research is valid, then it is reliable. Okay. Reliability is consistency. It is not going to change. It is reliable. Okay. Research is nothing but it is based on the real time experience. So empirical is based on the real time experience. So E for E, empirical experience. So you need to be expertise in that particular topic. Coming to the other features, the objectivity, without any bias. You have to generalize your, see, you're taking a sample and that should be linked with the population, whatever research you're doing. So what you're doing, you are generalizing, right? Okay. uh, Discover, develop and verify the knowledge. Firstly, you discover what is unknown. All right, you try to develop some designs on it, and you finally verify whether the knowledge is whatever you have applied, whether the knowledge is something new, and you are drawn a valid conclusion, right? Careful inquiry, you see, it should be questions or investigation that should be very relevant. It shouldn't be unnecessary or the questions which are not in that particular purpose. So it should be a careful inquiry, and you should maintain that confidentiality of the persons who are giving the information as well, right? Credibility, it is the best source of information and procedure. So credibility is nothing but it is the best thing, best source, the information or whatever you're doing must be in a best way. Standardization, yes, the research process as well is a standard format, and you follow that format to make a standardization of that particular research. Yes. What are the different research methods and methodology? Research methods, what are the methods we are using? It is the question on what. So research methodology is related to how. So methodology is related to application, and research methods is related to it is basically theoretical, what methods are you using, and so methodology is a procedure, right? We'll look at the differences, the methods and the methodology. These are the methods by which you conduct a research. So you say that the method is this method I'm using. Methodology is the process or the procedure that you are using for your research. So it may be explains the method. It is just a method, and here in the methodology it will explain what kind of method you are using. It is theoretical in nature. Research method is theoretical, whereas methodology, as you are going or explaining the process or a procedure, it is nothing but a practical in nature. Aims at finding the solution to the research problem. See, any research, you're going to find a solution. This is research method. Whereas in methodology, it is the procedure. The correct procedure to find out the solution is more important. The research method is a narrow scope, whereas the research methodology is on the wider scope. Okay, these are the differences. Method is a method that we are following. Methodology is a process that we are following in order to understand, to draw a conclusion. So it is a procedure that we are following is the methodology. Moving on to the research process. Yes, process, from the word itself, a process is something, a kind of steps. A series of actions are the steps for the research. So what you want to find out is the first question. And how we are going to find out, how we are going to find the solution is the next question. So this journey lies between these two questions. So what you want and how you are doing it is nothing but the research process. Right. What is the standard form of the research process? See, when you are doing any research, the first thing you try to find out what is the problem. So you have to clearly define what actually is the problem. Identify the problem. Clearly write the statement, this is the problem and why this problem is. Try to have a clear idea what actually is the problem is. Do a literature review. You have to understand when you are doing this research, what is the objective of you doing this research. See, to understand or to identify what is the comparison between the students studying online or offline. So what is your objective on doing a research? So you have to do a literature review, like if there is already an author or a researcher or a scholar who has already done some research or background work or already did something related to this topic, then you have to do a literature review of literature. Is nothing but it is already a person who has worked on this. You try to draw some background collection of data, and I try to understand what is actually the problem related to. So that is review of literature. And here, develop the hypothesis. And the next step is that you develop the hypothesis. I said your hypothesis is nothing but a tentative statement. It is an assumption that I'm making. It can be true, it can be false, it can be valid or invalid. So it is true or false. Okay. Research design. The first thing comes under the research design or a research methodology. Methodology, I said you, it is the process. What is the procedure that you're going to follow, right? This is what you do in the research methodology. It is the blueprint on how you're working for this particular research. Okay. Sampling design. The sampling design is what are the sampling tools that you're using, the sampling size, the size of the sample is taken, what the sampling technique. It can be a probability technique or a non-probability technique. We'll discuss this types of sampling also in the next videos. And finally, you collect the data. Data collection is there. And the next step after the data collection is you analyze the data. Yes. And after analyzing the data, you try to test the hypothesis. I said you, the hypothesis is a tentative statement where you assume, and you finally try to understand whether your hypothesis is valid or not valid. That is, you test your hypothesis. And finally, you interpret and generalize. You interpret the whole data and you try to draw some generalizations from that particular research. And finally, you prepare a report and the conclusion that is the result of the research. Right? This is the standard process, where you identify the problem, do some background work, that is review of literature who has already done some research on this particular topic, and you try to develop the hypothesis, and you design what is the research methodology that you're going to follow. Then you decide about the sampling techniques or the sampling design. And when you are clear about what is your design and what is your sampling design, then you start collecting the data. The data collection can be in different ways. We'll talk about it in detail in the coming classes, where you can collect the data from a primary source or a secondary source. Primary source is that which is nothing but from the first hand, directly from the people. It can be from interviews, observation, etc. Secondary source is nothing but where you get readily the data is available from, maybe from some books or something. That is the secondary data. Okay. Coming to the data analysis, you analyze the data, and finally you test your hypothesis and interpret and try to generalize the conclusion of your research, and finally you prepare a report. This is the standard form of the research process. So we say it is formulation of the research problem. First one is you formulate what actually is the problem related to the research. Second thing, you prepare a research design. So the blueprint of how you're going to do the research. Develop the data collection. You develop the data collection. Then collect the data. Fourth one. This is the fourth one. You select the sample types of the you collect the data, sampling, write a research proposal, and then the sixth one is collecting the data, processing, analyzing the data is the seventh one. Eighth one is writing a report. So the flow is like this. Formulation of the research problem, prepare the research design, develop the data collection, and you select the sample. Then write a proposal. Proposal is nothing but a summary on what you're working on. So these days, before doing your PhD, before going to have an interview of your PhD, they are asking along with your research proposal, where they are trying to understand on what is the topic that you are really interested and how much knowledge you are having, and whether that research proposal is having some relevance with the society or so. And so then you collect the data. Once your research proposal is valid and from the authority, they have given you permissions on doing this research, then you collect the data, you analyze the data, and finally write a report. So this is then So let us see what happens at each stage that we have discussed. The simple thing, the standard form we understood, and let us see in detail this formulation of the research problem. In the first step, I said you do a literature review. That is, you review what are the different scholars did on the same topic. So you try to understand the background of the topic. So you formulate your own objectives. After understanding what you want to find out from this research, what is your objective? That is, you're going to look at the first step itself. You identify what are the variables that are measuring scales that you are using in that particular research, and you formulate your hypothesis. In the second step, that is preparing the research design, it is having a structured problem structure. You structure the problem. What is the problem, how it can be solved, what are the different sub problems that are related, what are the different alternatives for that problem. You study the design, you experiment. It can be an experimental study or a non-experimental study. So this is what happens in the research design. Coming to the developing data collection. So you try to understand what is the research instrument that I'm using, what type of data, whether it is a primary data or a secondary data, what is the method of data collection, whether I'm doing the collection of data by interviews or a questionnaire, what is that way of my data collection, and what are the different research tools that I'm using. So these are discussed in developing the data collection. So data collection deals with how I'm doing it, what I'm doing it, what are the different techniques I'm using, what are the tools I'm using. Next, fourth step is selecting the sample. So in this sample, I'm going to select the sample size, what type of sampling technique that I'm using. It can be a probability technique or a non-probability technique. What are the tools I'm using for sampling, what is the size of my sample is also included in this step 4, that is selecting sample and types. And you write a research proposal. So now you understood from where you're collecting the data, what is my research design, and what are the different samples that I'm using. So now you write a research proposal, and the main elements, what is the introduction, what is the problem, what is the need, what is the benefit of this research, and what are the different types of data and funds. From when you are doing a research, there is a need of fund or the financial sources that have to help you, and you will also write from where you're receiving the funds and other sources. Okay, and finally, collection of data. As I said, you finally collect the data. Once you are clear with how you're doing, what you're doing, you can do it by observation, interviews, schedules, questionnaires, etc. And the next step is, once you collect the data, and next step is analyzing the data. You try to edit and code the data. Classification of data, you classify. If there are any tables, bar charts, you try to analyze the data, and you hypothesis testing is done, and you finally generalize. This data is, after analyzing, you generalize what is happening with this data, and you give a conclusion of generalization. And finally, when you generalize, and then you write, the next step is writing a research report. So that there is a title page, the table of content, the different chapters, bibliography, appendices. So it finally, once you are done with your research, then you are going to make a report on what you have found out. So how you started the journey of known to unknown. So how you have increased your knowledge, what is that new finding or a conclusion that is there. So you particularly write what is the title, what is the table of contents, where you analyze the interpretation, the data analysis. There are different chapters, right? Yes. Bibliography, what are the different references or books that you have referred for doing this research. Everything is included in this. So this is all about the research process that we have read. And yes, if at all you have any doubts, please look at this video again. And this is all for today. Thank you, and like and subscribe. Thank you.